How's it going, everybody? Gaurav Bhatt here. You're listening to the Express Sports Podcast, and it's game time. It's been a great return out of the pandemic-induced lockdown on sports for Indian cricket fans. The historic series win in Australia, the dominating performance against England in tests at home, then followed a topsy-turvy T20 series again won by India. Even the ongoing one-day series against England. The third one-dayer is tomorrow. We, of course, are recording this on Thursday, but I guess India will be up 2-0. The one strand, one imposing narrative that threads these performances is the sheer depth India has. Not that कि India में कभी कमी रही है cricketers की, but this influx of debutants, these breakthrough performers, कि we almost have a second 11 ready to compete at an international level. And India एक ही तो यहाँ पे बात भी नहीं हो रही. And the one person that we had to bring on for this show is Sandip G, our foremost cricket writer, who possibly will be sharing the same nice headache, a problem of plenty, because he would have to keep track of all these players, all these performances. Sandeep, when was the last time you saw such depth in the Indian cricket team setup, especially when we're focusing on the limited overs formats? Because at every position we have a plethora of options, isn't it?
Absolutely, man. I mean, if you take, except from Jasprit Bumrah, I mean, you take any position, there are like lots of options. I've never seen such depth in any time, like in the last 20, 25 years. I mean, since I started watching cricket, like I've never seen, man, this kind of depth and this kind of quality and this kind of talent pool we have. I've never seen that.
So let's start with the first position, that is the opening combination. Now, we belong to the generation that saw legendary opening pairs like Sachin Ganguly, Sachin Sehwag, even Sehwag and Gambhir. But it was in 2013 at the Champions Trophy in England that we chanced upon this young blood combination of Rohit Sharma and Shikhar Dhawan, which became our go-to for the years to come. But suddenly there's this influx of openers here. I mean, if we go down the list, it'll take us some 6 to 8 minutes, just the sheer numbers of openers that we have. Take us through these batsmen, Sandeep.
Like, man, I mean, somebody like Mayank Agarwal, he's sitting out. He's not even in the team. So that shows the kind of depth we have. I mean, we have these regulars, Rohit Sharma and Shikhar Dhawan, obviously. I mean, one of the best opening pairs in ODI cricket, especially. I mean, one of the best ever we had. As good as maybe Tendulkar and Ganguly. I mean, the records, Shikhar Dhawan averages around 45. The destruction that he can wreck on teams, and Rohit Sharma obviously like multiple double century and exceptional player. And so when you go beyond them, you have somebody like Prithvi Shaw, a youngster, Shubman Gill, early 20s, Mayank Agarwal, Rahul, who can bat anywhere. I mean, all these guys can bat anywhere, but they are specialist openers who are not getting a chance because in T20s as well. I mean, these guys are pretty good in T20s as well. You know, just watch last couple of years IPL. The number of hundreds that Rahul has got, like its strike rate is around 145 at an average of 40-45. He's exceptional. But somebody like Rahul is not getting an opportunity to open the innings says much about the depth we have.
People like Shubman Gill, who have broken through at least on the test circuit on the backs of great performances with the India A team and all those tours that he has already had. He's played in England before. But as far as limited overs is concerned, Sandeep, would he find it tough to break into the Indian team now that we have all these options?
He down the road, like maybe in another 5-6 months, he will invariably get a chance. There's no doubt about it because he's such a quality player. He keeps getting runs. I mean, he has showed his temperament in Test match cricket, and he plays in such a positive way that he'll fit in easily into white ball cricket as well. But you need to, when he will get a chance, has to be seen because like. We'll be experimenting with a few youngsters in the coming series like Asia Cup, and we are playing one bilateral series against Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka. So all these guys will get a chance, and it's about like making the best of your chances. I mean, you miss a few games, I mean, you fumble in your chances, that's it. You go back to the waiting list, and then you will come back again later. It's just once you're out of the team, it's going to be very difficult to get back into the team. So Shubman Gill or Prithvi Shaw or even Mayank Agarwal, whenever they get an opportunity, they should just seize onto it.
But do you think it's only going to get tougher now that our great captain and one of our finest batsmen, Virat Kohli himself, has thrown his hat in the ring, deciding to come out and open with Rohit Sharma, and successfully so?
I think he's done it very smartly, man, because suddenly there was a lot of confusion over who will open, a lot of talent. So he said, okay, wait, I'm going to be the opener. You guys just keep watching me. But Virat Kohli opening in T20s is a terrific move, I believe, because you have two of your best batsmen opening, and it just takes one of them to click. Or if both of them click, there's nothing like it. Back in the day when Sehwag and Tendulkar used to bat together till 30 overs, it was game, set, match. Just as Saurav Ganguly and Tendulkar also used to be back in the day. So if Coley and Rohit Sharma, both of them bat for at least 6-7 hours, like India will be in a super position. So that's a very smart move from Virat Kohli. And anyway, in T20s, who comes down at number 2 or number 3 doesn't matter actually. So he'll seamlessly make the transition.
And it's not like it's an unfamiliar spot for him, right? He has done it for his franchise, the great Royal Challengers Bangalore, with another swashbuckling opening partner. So he has had some experience in that form.
Yeah, and he has done pretty well also. He scored a couple of 90s when he played for RCB. I guess 1 century also he scored as an opener. So for Kohli, it fits him perfectly. I mean, he sometimes he tends to take a bit, especially in India, tends to take a bit of a time to hang around and maybe 6-7 balls, which are huge in T20 cricket. So these power play regulations give him an opportunity to get going straight away, and then back and how destructive he can be. Like last 10 overs, he's a master in the last 10-12 overs. So nobody who can pace the innings like him. So it's a win-win situation.
How did the decision come about though, Sandip? Because I remember reading your analysis piece that you wrote the day after Virat Kohli decided to open, and even the quotes from Rohit and Virat Kohli himself saying it's more horses for courses sort of a scenario. It was dictated by the tactical setup that the team needed on that particular moment. But tell us what really happened. Why did Kohli decide to come up the order?
Because our middle order is doing superbly. India's middle order is doing like Surya Kumar Yadav and Shreyas Iyer. Surya just came in and he started playing like he's been around for a while. He shot no stage fright. He's strapped straight away. So if you have a couple of guys like them as number 3 and number 4, and then you have people like Rishabh Pant and Hardik Pandya down the order, I mean, it gives a certain liberty to Virat Kohli to go up the order. You don't need a number 3. He doesn't need to come at number 3 and play a T20 kind of an anchor. You can straight away get going when you're at the top of the order. So that middle order, the strength of the middle order might have prompted this decision. And it works, especially in India and Asia, it works perfectly because, in England maybe or Australia maybe a bit of a nip, bit of bounce early on. So it's Kohli batting at number 3 will be much more prudent. But in India, I mean, there's hardly any movement. There's nothing like, he can just be there and enjoy himself.
So let's not leave our listeners guessing when we speak of this strong middle order that we have. Half the names that we've mentioned from this opening pool can very easily float down the order. They can be part of the middle order. But Sandeep, people like Surya Kumar Yadav coming in and shining on their debut, Ishan Kishan again doing that exact thing. That middle order, that backbone, how is it looking for India in the future?
These guys like Shreyas Iyer, Rishabh Pant, Ishan Kishan, Manish Pandey, KL Rahul. These guys are going to be the future of Indian batting lineup. Like they are in their mid-20s to early 20s to mid-20s. Like in another 5 years, you can see them like proper cricketers, like with a lot of experience. Like they'll be doing stuff like Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli will be doing. So, and then there are also guys coming up, like guys like Devdutt Padikkal and all, Sanju Samson, they're all coming up. So, and Ajinkya Rahane, he's also a pretty good middle order batsman who's not getting an opportunity. And Hanuma Vihari also is a very good white ball player as well, but there's no room for these guys like them. So, it speaks of India's depth only. Like those guys can't make into, for example, Rahane would have walked into most of the middle orders in the world in white ball cricket, or Ishan Kishan, or they would have been regulars there. But the kind of depth India has, these guys are not even in the fringe. Ajinkya Rahane, Hanuma Vihari.
Such is the depth here कि we have been discussing Indian cricket and brilliant batsmen, and we haven't brought up Cheteshwar Pujara yet, who has unfortunately been limited to the red ball format, but he's also part of this great Indian depth.
Absolutely. Pujara, Rahane, Vihari, even guys like Surya Kumar Yadav and Shreyas Iyer, they can also walk into this test team red ball cricket because they also have a lot of experience playing first class cricket. A lot of A2s. I mean, Shreyas Iyer has been scoring a lot of runs in the A2s. Hanuma Vihari is a classic case of how the A2s can benefit Indian team because he played some around 35 A games everywhere in New Zealand, in Zimbabwe, everywhere. So when he burst into international cricket, he was almost ready. So that is one very noticeable thing of this Indian team. Like, you make a debut, you look the part straight away. They're not nervous at all. Like, I mean, Washington Sundar, for example, how beautifully he made that test debut in Australia, and he continued that.
Speaking of somebody like Devdutt Padikkal, now he may not be among the names that we are mentioning now, but keen followers would know his exploits from the domestic season, especially the Vijay Hazare Trophy, a very elegant left-handed opener. Sandeep, tell us a little bit more about Devdutt Padikkal, especially because he'll again be in the eye of the storm as IPL approaches.
Oh, he's in Karnataka circles, he's called Clive Lloyd. It was actually Dodda Ganesh who gave him that name, Clive Lloyd, because he is a beautiful cutter of the cricket ball. Like, there are very few Indian players who actually who straight away comes and plays that kind of shots, the pulls and the cuts. He's done it straight away. Initially, he was a front foot player, and then he developed his back foot game, and he's exceptional in the back foot now. Like, there's not just the elegance, the power he generates. I mean, it's exceptional player. Could turn out to be an all-format player for India in the future. He's just 19-20, so there's a lot of time as well.
After the middle order, we talk of the wicket-keeping options, and in my opinion, this is one spot where one guy has it locked down, right? Rishabh Pant across all three formats. He's had it locked down with his performances. Thoda sa there was a concern earlier कि maybe he throws away his wicket too soon, but we've come to realize that's his style of play, and he's won matches for us playing that way. Is it a foregone conclusion, Sandeep, that Rishabh Pant will be the Indian wicketkeeper across formats for time to come, or do we have some depth in this department also?
Yeah, I mean, for someone to uproot Rishabh Pant from this position is very difficult because he's batting beautifully. His keeping has improved dramatically. Like, some of his leg side takes in the test matches against England were superb. And yeah, obviously we have Vridhiman Saha, who is the best keeper per se in red ball cricket. But there are options like KS Bharat, domestic player. He's pretty good. He's a very special keeper, also very fast hands. And there are guys like Ishan Kishan and all. But as far as Rishabh Pant is concerned, I mean, his position is beyond. His must be the most infallible position India has.
But what about somebody like KL Rahul, who's been doing his namesake proud by pitching in as a wicketkeeper more often than not?
In white ball cricket, there's no harm at all in keeping with KL Rahul, but KL Rahul essentially is a batsman. Though my only worry about KL keeping a lot is that, I mean, his batting shouldn't get affected because he's such a beautiful player. And he could be India's all-format premier batsman once guys like Coley and Pujara and all retire. He has that kind of potential. So, I mean, Dravid also never used to keep wickets in test match cricket. So, yeah, having an extra strength only benefits his position in the team. But at some point of time, he should just focus on his batting. But yeah, in current situation in white ball cricket, he's a great option.
Okay, so let's move on to a department where unarguably we've never lacked any sort of depth. That's the spin department. We've had great spinners always. Even now, we have two who are the leaders of the pack by some distance, Ravichandran Ashwin and Ravindra Jadeja. But suddenly in walks Aksar Patel, who's raining down fifers left and right, and then Washington Sundar, who's a brilliant utility spinner. Utility will be calling him utility will be doing him injustice, but he's a very effective spinner, but has made headlines due to his batting prowess as well. There are ODI mainstays like Yuzvendra Chahal, even Kuldeep Yadav, though he's fighting his own demons. Sandeep, there's this great depth in the Indian spin department also, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you have every variety of spinner. You have wrist spinners, you have off breaks, you have off spinners, you have Chinaman bowler, which is very rare. And you have even within them, like you have somebody is a conventional spinner like Ashwin. And then you have Ashwin can't be conventional as well as unconventional. I mean, he's mastered both. And then you have slightly a white ball specific spinner like Washington Sundar, and left arm spinner also. Like you have somebody like Jadeja, who these days is more of an orthodox left arm spinner than an unconventional slightly flashy spinner, which he was in his early days. And then you have Aksar Patel, Yuzvendra Chahal. Chahal also would have played test match cricket had he been born anywhere. Especially if he had been in England and all, he would have played like some 30-40 test matches by now. So even like he's not anywhere in the reckoning in the test equation. So sort of a golden era for Indian spin department as well. And the best thing about the spinners is that everybody can bat. They're like Ashwin, Jadeja. You take Washington Sundar. Washington Sundar is a very elegant batsman, and he was opened his innings for Tamil Nadu and scored 100 also. Then Aksar Patel can hit the ball around. Even Kuldeep Yadav is actually a pretty good batsman. Like he can hang around, which he did a couple of times in Australia in that tour, like 2018 tour. So We are talking about terrific spinners with ability to hang around as well. Maybe except for Yuzvendra Chahal, they're all good batsmen also. So that kind of, I mean, Indian spinners like Harbhajan was a pretty good batsman and Kumble also was a pretty good batsman. Apart from that, most of the Indian spinners ever go back to Ravi Shastri to find an Indian spinner who actually was a really good batsman. And Ashwin is a very good batsman in Test cricket. Like you have somebody like Jadeja who's equally effective in T20s and ODIs as well. So that's a great value addition.
That further adds to the depth we keep harping about throughout this episode. But Sandeep, you mentioned the 2018 Australian tour. Of course, you were there watching from close quarters somebody like Kuldeep Yadav, who, like you said, was making it count with the bat, with the ball. Of course, he was being effective, but suddenly there's been this sharp nosedive, right? This rapid decline, and suddenly he's looking out of sorts. A couple of loose balls in an over, costing runs, and that is if he gets into the team and if he gets to play, that is. But what's been the deal? What's been eating Kuldeep Yadav all this time?
It's confidence crisis basically. Like, I mean, most of his spinners tend to bowl a few looseness here and there, and suddenly you don't get wickets also. It starts playing on his mind, and there are a few technical issues also with him, like his front knee not bending as it should be. Like, that's what somebody like Brad Hogg was saying, that, I mean, he had advised him some time ago that his front knee was not bending as it should be. I mean, which gives him more balance and which gives his action more fluidity. So these minor things he can work on, and basically it's just about getting like 3-4 wickets. He'll get back to form. He needs to be preserved. He needs to be somehow pampered also. Like, he needs to be nurtured. He must be 26, 27, but when he gets going, even if you take out the mystery factor and all, he's a genuinely good spinner who can turn the ball on any surface, and if it's not turning, he has flight, he can make the ball dip, and all these gifts add. So, and the biggest problem people are saying is that he's slightly slower limited over cricket as well as test matches. So maybe he can work on a nice rhythm, maybe increase his pace by a few yards and vary his pace better. So these minor things he can work on, he can actually regain his spot in the team.
Just to follow up on that, our entire theme this episode has been this depth, this great pool, and we have so many options. But at the end of the day, it's not like these are denim jeans or t-shirts that we're talking about. These are players with their insecurities and frailties. Like, for example, agar kal ko bahut sare podcast ho gaye, so suddenly I'll be a little under pressure that we have to step up our game. Sandeep, do you think there could be an adverse effect on cricketers suddenly who are jostling for spots in and out, because the combination keeps changing, and there's just this absolute cutthroat nature of the limited overs cricket now in India, that it can be a detriment to certain players?
Yeah, it definitely can be. I mean, after all, players can be fragile. I mean, there's always insecurity lurking inside them. Outside, they may say, oh, it's fine. I mean, it's all about team combination. I'll do whatever the team tells me. But deep inside, you want to play every game. Every player in the squad wants to play every game. So that sort of hurts. And this is where the team management, the captain and the senior players need to chip in with their advice, basically they need a warm hug on the shoulders. Like, don't worry, I mean, you're like kind words, basically. I mean, keep working. That kind of motivation they need to give them. Like, maybe a mental trainer will be very effective. And that should be drilled into them also. Like, I mean, you'll get your chance. I mean, the competition is intense. So just wait and make the best of the opportunities when you get it. That needs to be told.
So moving on to the last department, one which rivals the opening slot as far as the number of options go, is the pace battery. Now, I alluded to the fact that we are oldies. We belong to the generation where Srinaths and Venkateshas, and we had spearheads. Agarkar, of course, but like a wrist spinner, you said, couple of looseners here and there in an over from Agarkar also. But we've had great fast bowlers, but never so many at the same time, right? There's the spearhead Jasprit Bumrah across all three formats, but a great combination of experienced battle-hardened veterans like Mohammad Shami and Bhuvneshwar Kumar, even Ishant Sharma, young blood like Siraj and Saini and Natarajan and Prasidh Krishna. In this shuffle, कई बारी तो हम उमेश यादव type नाम भी भूल जाते हैं. Yeah, who's been so handy for us at the test level. Sandeep, what has been the reason एक तो behind this pace battery, and who are the great names that you personally look forward to watching?
Pace battery, we've been grooming fast bowlers for a while. Right from under 19, under 13 level, there's always an eye on fast bowlers. Fast bowlers are encouraged. It's not like these days everybody wants to become a batsman. Fast bowling also encouraged. There are good hands to take care of them, to nurture them, to give them the best opportunities. And then IPL also plays a huge factor, because in IPL, fast bowlers are like hot properties. If you're a fast bowler, you can bowl quick. You will invariably, even if you haven't played international cricket, the scouts, one scout will invariably pick you and then will throw you into the nets. So that kind of environment is there, the kind of exposure is there. So, and these days, the coaches are also like very systematic about nurturing a talent. And yeah, like India's best fast bowling lineup I've ever seen. Not like back in the day when it was all about Zahir Khan, and Zahir Khan gets injured and the rest falls apart. Or flashes of brilliance. Now RP Singh was there. He played one test match superbly. He'll bowl like Wasim Akram, and then he goes completely off the radar the next test match.
Yeah.
And Irfan Pathan also. He was like, when he was swinging the ball well, there was nobody like him. But then he also slipped off the radar. Now there's more focus on preserving the fast bowlers to ensure that they don't slip off, which is a brilliant thing. IPL has played a huge role in that also, because they are, even if you're not given opportunity, even if straight away not given into opportunities playing for India or India A, you'll invariably be in an IPL squad, and where you'll interact with foreign players, where you interact with top class fast bowlers. So atmosphere is conducive for fast bowling.
Yeah. And
personally, I look for just Shami and Jasprit, man. Sensational pair.
Yeah, Shami is a personal favorite of mine, having been to his village and learned more about his life story and everything. It's such a nice story. Last question before I throw it open for questions from our great producer Shashank Bhargava. Sandeep, also somebody like T. Natarajan, whom you wrote about extensively, you spoke about him on our podcast. A lot of people earlier dismissed him as this one trick or even two trick pony if you count both the slower balls and the Yorkers, but you wrote in your piece also, and even after that he himself has shown that there's more to him than just those T20 tricks and those 4 overs, right?
Yeah, man. A lot of it was about perceptions, man. You play T20, you bowl. He comes with a reputation of Yorker, so we somehow stereotype him as just as a Yorker bowler. But then he has also played first class cricket. He has played a lot of this first division cricket in Tamil Nadu, which is actually a pretty good level. So where you end up bowling 20-30 overs a day on flat wickets, scorching sun, so you develop your other tricks also, like bowling back of length, mixing lengths. Our domestic structure is also so good. There is now a variety of conditions a player plays in. For example, like you play in Delhi in winter, the ball will swing. You play in April in Chennai, it will be pretty dry. 2 matches get over in 3 days. So the exposure to different conditions is also pretty good. Like another example is Washington Sundar. He was so lost in stereotyping that even Tamil Nadu team stopped picking him for first class games. But then he showed, like in test matches, he showed how good a batsman he is, and he was pretty good with the ball also.
Yeah,
we should stop like stereotyping them.
Putting them in
certain bracketing brackets, them. And then we forgot a couple of other names, man. Krunal Pandya and Hardik Pandya. The Pandya brothers.
Oh God, no. The Mumbai Indians brickbats that we would have gotten, you saved us from them.
Man. Hardik Pandya is a once in a generation talent, man. Like if he's fit for bowling in test match cricket, he gives immense balance to the team. He's a pretty good.
The next Kapil Dev, huh?
But I don't know whether he's next Kapil Dev, but he's certainly damn good. He can play. Batting wise, at least he can be Kapil Dev. He's so good straight down the ground. He showed a couple of innings in last 2, like when we were down in the dumps. He just came and just pelted the daylights out of these English fast bowlers, like James Anderson, calming him straight down the ground. It takes a special ability to do that.
And even brother Krunal, who shone on his debut on what was a very emotional day for him. He made a great debut, and also another great utility talent and he fits in many of those slots that we've discussed on the show, right?
Yeah. Krunal Pandya also, like he can white ball cricket is a great value addition with his ability to bat also. Jadeja obviously will be the first choice, but there are people knocking down also. Like when a player is aware that there are people knocking behind him, he also takes his level a couple of notches further. That okay, you can't afford to have a bad game or a couple of bad games because there's the other guy knocking. yapping at your heel. So you need to be careful. You need to also chip in. So that sense of complacency completely goes out of the window.
Now, one man who doesn't need any replacements, any options, he has a spot locked down tighter than ever, is Shashank Bhargava, our producer. Shashank, I don't know if you're a lapsed cricket fan or not a cricket fan anymore or never been one. That's hard to imagine, though you live in India after all. But suddenly, say for example, you switch on the TV and a fast bowler called Prasidh Krishna is bowling, and he's Prasidh even though you've never heard of his name. So what is the feeling like knowing that there's been this sudden influx of so many debutants and breakthrough performances?
So, I mean, one thing that I wonder about when I hear these new names is that, what has enabled this to happen? Like, how come we have seen this influx of, these new players and this immense pool of talent?
And like we always had a lot of players coming into domestic cricket, who always wanted to be cricketers. But now there is a more systematic way of sporting talent, picking talent, more opportunities for them, more clubs where they can learn cricket, more like under 13 cricket, under 14 tournament, under 15 tournaments. There are more such tournaments. There are basically more avenues for cricketers to get noticed, avenues and options for them. And then they're aware that they can make a living out of cricket. And they are the domestic structure is also so systematic, man. Like under 13 you progress, under 15, under 17, under 19. So the competition is immense, and only the best get through to a certain level. And from there again there is filtering. So naturally, when there are a lot of healthy competition going on, the quality also improves. And they are also aware that okay, even if you don't get into a state team, you have other option. You can play club cricket. Is also in some parts of India, the quality is pretty good. Like Karnataka State Cricket League is damn good. TNCA First Division is also pretty good. And then you have domestic T20 tournaments like Tamil Nadu Premier League, Karnataka Premier League. So someone, a youngster who 16-year-old, 17-year-old knows that once you are into cricket, you'll get a livelihood. There is security. There's opportunity. And once you are once you get into IPL or domestic side, you're carefully watched, you're groomed, and then you go to the A team. So that structure is system, and there are very senior, very expert hands looking after it, like Rahul Dravid taking care of this under 19 team and India A team. So the right exposure is there, the atmosphere is there, the security is also there.
Right. And the other question that I had while I was listening to you was that you mentioned that in T20 it doesn't matter, who opens at the third, fourth position. And even in one of your pieces, you write that in T20, specialization of batting spots is grossly exaggerated. Could you explain why that is?
Like I'll tell you, man. Like for example, in red ball cricket, like the ball, whether it's a Kukupura ball or a Duke ball or SC ball, it swings around. You need a specialist for it. You need someone who knows opening inside out. It's slightly different calling. So somebody like Virat Kohli, Virat Kohli can obviously open the innings and maybe he can get 100, but the dynamics are slightly different because you need generally in test match cricket, your best batsman bat at number 3, number 4. There needs to be a slight cushion up front. Some of the surfaces you play test match cricket, especially abroad, it's very difficult. The quality of bowling is also different. The field setting is different. So in T20, it's different. In T20, like you just need to face like 120 balls. Whereas in test cricket, it's like you end up facing 120 overs. You never know. So the level is slightly different, where you need more specialization. Like somebody who knows what to do at that spot. Obviously, everybody is flexible. Like, if Virat Kohli bats at number 4, sometimes he will have come and face a third ball because the other two guys must have lost a wicket in the first 2 balls. That's a different scenario. But in test cricket, it's slightly different that way. Even one-day cricket to an extent, like you need more, the talent should be spread out. It's a little scattered around the top 6, top 5. So, like if you have Virat Kohli batting at number 3, it's like it gives a certain assurance, a guarantee to the team.
That was it, listeners. That was the breakdown of the depth that the Indian cricket has at the moment. Sandeep, thanks a lot for joining in. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. Looking forward to solid performances from all the names that we mentioned and your writing on them, which is solid as always.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Shank.
To all the listeners, stay tuned to Game Time. It comes out every Saturday. More importantly, stay safe. Adios.
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This week's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.